Hey, 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 welcome back. Welcome back to the Gemini channel. If you're new to my channel, I'm going to do a general message for Gemini. Know that energy is fluid, rules could be reversed. Just interpret the message as the best channel. I like to dive deep within the reading, so I look at everything, but we take time to look at the spiritual blocks, the shadows, to see how they play those karmic themes, help you understand why everything's playing out the way that it is. Many times it's not whether the person has feelings for us. It's why the person acts the way that they do, why we're courted to someone that, you know, makes us feel bad. And why would we choose to live that reality? If there's many different realities that play at one time, why are we blocked in that reality? Well, again, everything is spiritual. See, you're a spiritual being, have a human experience. So when I say everything is spiritual, everything has a spiritual foundation. And that means that spiritual law. And spiritual law is very simple. There's two energies, love and fear. The energy of love is the energy of God. The energy of universal energy is the energy of love. We have that energy inside of us because that energy is ubiquitous. And so when we breathe in air, it gives us breath. Breath is life. It's also known as spirit. And so that energy allows us to be supernatural. We can create our own heaven on earth. However, we all live in environments that are imbalanced. Even if you don't didn't grow up in major world is imbalanced, and it's imbalanced because there's apartheid, war, there's you know um, there's all things that we have absolutely no control over. And we say, well, if God was perfect, why would there be a tsunami that wiped out a whole town? Why would children die? Why would, and so understand everything is spiritual, meaning we're down here to learn that we're not separate from the energy of love. And it's obviously not heaven down here. Down here, it's imbalanced. And it's imbalanced because it vibrates more at the energy of fear, which is more from a survival perception. That's why people that are good with money, they tend to be able to strategize, right? They're good business people. And so you have to think a certain way. And that way is works better than to be spiritual. Like to be spiritual in the realm, you don't get anything for it, like on a monetary basis. You know what I mean? And a lot of people might even judge you if you are, like, let's just say, a psychic or somebody that's intuitive, someone that's an intuitive coach. Again, people, so it's actually harder, to have to deal with the people's attitudes because we live in a more imbalanced environment. And that's why the world has become imbalanced. Everyone wants to be like the kings, like the warriors, the people that just get what they want instead of, people that think about how it's going to affect everybody. Where intuitive, sensitive people tend to look at how it's going to affect everyone. So, spiritual issues play out obviously within our relationships, but they also play out within other areas of our life. So, I always like to look at what is the energy that you need. And so, energy, people say, oh, this is a reading for like February 10th. It's not. It's like the energy takes a while to play out. It's not a one done. It's significant energy that's contributing to you changing, you evolving into higher states of consciousness, which are spiritual lessons, which they come through experiences as well as relationships. Well, that person's not coming in for a day. You're dealing with them for a little bit. It's like that's why we live many lifetimes. You would never learn every single spiritual lesson that there is in one lifetime. It's impossible. And why do we have to learn every spiritual experience? Well, because God is all knowing, and we're learning that there's no separation between us and our creator, right? The illusion is that there's separation due to the trauma right? And due to the experiences that play out within our lives due to the trauma. So, one way that we can see that whether we have trauma is obviously within our relationships and within like our finances, health, even unfortunately. And the reason why is because, when people are born, let's just say with diabetes is a connection to like the root chakra, right? It has to do with survival, that diabetes from a spiritual perspective. So if your parents struggled with alcoholism and financial problems and your great parents like had the same trauma, so you were born into family lineage that was kind of like a karmic curse. Well, now you've inherited like that manifestation, physical manifestation, because of the spiritual imbalances. So now you were born because understand it's your habits and your behaviorisms that activate your DNA. Sickness and disease is only 5% inherited because if you copy your parents' habits and behaviorisms, your life is going to look exactly like theirs. Where opposed to when you heal your spiritual issues, you don't have the same issues that your parents have. You actually get to see your life play out through a different reality because we're living more from spiritual times, not from dogmatic times. And I know that that's a lot, like, but it's like again to understand how spiritual energy works, because then you can really alchemize your energy. You really have full control over your life. It's not about whether a person likes you or whether you can get the job. It's like that you can, but you want to know why it always plays out the way that it does, is the moral. So we do look and see, like I said, what your person is thinking, what they're doing, all that stuff that we want to know. Okay, so I just pull cards randomly, like to see what is the energy that we need to focus on. And I say that because I look at the wounds first, and I look at the energy that you need to incorporate into your life, and it translates into why. Okay, so let me get rid of this. I used to make cards everywhere, and I'm like trying to be a little bit more organized. Okay, here we go. I like to read them separate than together. Family of origin. So, family of origin, it just shows up as deep rooted patterns of unworthiness, fear of rejection, a need to overperform to feel loved, like to be seen. It may manifest as struggles with boundaries, repeating unhealthy cycles of carrying unresolved emotional burdens that aren't yours to bear. So, inheriting. Um, this is a little bit different than ancestral karma. This is more like, you know, like I mean, you still have feelings of unworthiness and fear, which I feel like if you grew up in an environment that made you perceive that, right, then the habits and behaviorisms are gonna, you know, play out as bad relationships. And bad relationships because there's a feeling of unworthiness. And so when a person feels unworthy, what do? They overperform. And that's a second chakra imbalance where they overcompensate for the lack. And so they teach people unconsciously what they truly feel, which is that they're unworthy. Where a person like, I don't understand why the person, I always get that. And it's because there's a sense of it's just familiar. It's when you grow up in a certain environment, like I said, you form habits and behaviorism. So the past life wounds are, again, it shows up as from and bringing it in from a past life. So a past life in this lifetime could just be your childhood, then you brought it into your adolescent life, then you brought it into like your teenage years, and then now you're married to somebody and they're the same. They have the same, It's the same karmic lesson, and that karmic lesson that continues to loop over and over and over and over and over again. So obviously, after a while, people perceive that whatever is playing out that is making them feel unworthy and not enough is their truth, even though it's not truth, because it shows up as like unexplained fears or phobias, patterns with no clear, like, I don't know where it came from. I don't know why I have like a spiritual blockage with money, you may say. I don't know where it came from, or I don't know why I have this problem in relationships because it wasn't yours. Like it's, oh, you did pull into ancestral wound. So spirit says because you inherited it. So it shows just again that reoccurring pattern of fear of trauma and limitation passed down unconsciously through generations. And it appears as struggles with money, relationship, health. It's like kind of like the worst one. And the reason why is because your ancestors family is what creates support for you at such a young age. So if there's problems with money, if there's problems with relationships, how present can the parent be there for you, right? It's that they can't be in two places at one time, and they're only human. They're growing up the same time you're growing up. They're learning lessons the same time that you are. And there was no spirituality back in the day. I mean, there was, but a lot of people didn't practice it. They ran to church and they didn't really find the answer. And they got married and they had kids and responsibilities, and life happens. So it's not like anything was really bad. But what happens is when you grow up in that environment, then there's this perception like that this is all you can have because now you've embodied it, that energy, or there's a fear of this can happen, and so spirit says the only way to get through the ancestral karma of spiritual blockages within relationships and money is to go through the experience and do something differently. Most people do the same thing. That's why it's a karmic loop. It's again meaning that you need to do something to break that cycle. And part of it is not being able to express your emotions. Like you have to understand that when someone treats you with disrespect, you have to say something. When someone doesn't give you what you need, you have to say something. I feel like there's just too many people that, again, we're taught you don't say anything. No, you don't say anything when you grow up in dysfunction because you're not allowed to say anything. You're taught that like you're taught to accept things that you really shouldn't have to accept. That's the problem with ancestral karma. That's the problem with that because you're taught wrong. You're taught that love is unconditional to the point that it's bad behavior, and you don't learn boundaries, and you definitely don't feel safe enough to be vulnerable, to be able to express your needs. But spirit says you have to. Shows up as difficulty expressing or acknowledging your emotions, leading to numbness, frustration, and again, just like emotionally, being triggered all the time, and then it's like you try to avoid the pain, where it results in just more stress and unresolved emotional wounds that you just never healed because hey, your needs are never met. I mean, and that's really ancestral wounds. And why do I say that? Because it's always codependency. It's like you have fragmentation. You have two people that are fragmented, where the environment did a lot of damage, and that's maybe they had to go off to war. Maybe they had to like follow certain religion that they or again, it wasn't based on what they wanted a lot of times. And that's how people learn, right? A lot of times. So spirit saying it's like ancestral wounds is that there's no support. Where if we're always coming from a place of fear because we feel like we're alone and we don't trust because that ancestral karma is betrayal. A lot of times, like you betrayed me, even if you just didn't show up for me, you betrayed me. I can't trust you. It's like where you're an avoid and I can't talk to you. Either way, spirit says no support. And so why express anything? And that's really what spirit's saying. It gets that, where spirit's saying, bring the light from within you to the surface to shine. So how do you get rid of ancestral karma? You have to become yourself, because a lot of times we live so many bad experiences because we get stuck in the loop where it's like, this is all I can have. Or when your life partially works, where it's like, my job works, but my relationship doesn't work. Or so again, those shadows, where spirit says that the way that you heal that is you become yourself more, because the foundation is always imbalanced when you are inheriting ancestral karma. It just is. It's like, because they were fragmented, they didn't learn, and you watch that, and unfortunately you inherit their pain. And that's all you know. So that's where it came from. It's that trauma. And also, yes, your needs are not met when your parents can't be there. So spirit says, well, you're not those experiences, so you have to become yourself. And don't make the mistake. Now this is important. Do not make mistake of sensory overload for love. So there may be somebody trying to come back into your life, or people coming into your life, or someone wants to come back into your life that you still have like a little bit of an emotional connection to, but the sensory overload happens like if you grow up in an environment where you felt like you weren't safe. And ancestral karma is that, because there was betrayal, there was a lack of support. So you kind of would even taught that you didn't trust yourself, because you're like, well, it can go either way. But you're always coming from a survival perspective. And so that's a fear perspective, where if you were conditioned like that, you're someone that's very highly sensitive. You're someone that's very intuitive. And spirit says, and someone comes into your life, then, you're going to react. You're going to be easily triggered. And when you're easily triggered, what happens is that you do what the person wants. You don't do what you want. And that's so spirit saying that you have to look out for that, because this person has a bad way of affecting your freedom. Like I feel like growing up with this type of trauma where you weren't allowed to really express yourself and have emotional feelings, I mean, that's playing out again in relationship, and that's really, there's things happening in your life aside from your relationship. So, it's about trying to ground more, because you're not going to change that person. You have to change you. That's how you deal with the person. Spirit saying. So take it now, because it's going to seem random today, and consciously connect with Mother Earth. Well, if you never really felt safe, and now this person is coming in and they're triggering that energy inside of you, well, understand the only way to overcome that is to get more grounded, get into the present moment. No one can take you off your path. No one can take what's yours. Only you can allow it. That's why Spirit's saying, if you get overstimulated, because hey, there's still like this emotional connection, this person's going to come into your life and they're going to say, oh, my life, and I care so much, and how can they're going to make you feel a certain way. And if you grew up in an environment with ancestral karma, it meant that everybody played a role, and you might have been the healer of the family, the person that was sensitive, the person that was the fixer. So you don't want to repeat those wounds because of, again, not, state what you can and can't do, because like we see here, like three things, which ancestral wounds, and family origin wounds and the past life wounds. All these wounds aren't even yours. Like it means that you inherited them. And so, yes, they're playing out because it was the environment that you grew up in. But you have an opportunity to break it, is what Spirit's saying. And that, but it's by becoming yourself, because that's the only way. You have to embody a new consciousness. You have to alchemize the negative energy. So let's see where this person is, even though we already kind of know that this person, I feel like, wants to come back from just that, because I feel like it bled into your energy reading. Okay, let's see. I am grateful for the spiritual lesson. I feel like this person never felt like they could have a relationship like this before. you know, um, I know that that sounds stupid, but if a person's a player and they never really had a strong spiritual connection, you know, they might never have even considered spiritual. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like this person is a very logical person. Then it's like, wow, like maybe there really is somebody for everyone. Maybe again, there is such a thing as a soulmate. Like maybe there really could be a different way. And you would be grateful because after a while, you have one bad relationship after another bad relationship. You don't want to let people in. Just being near you is intoxicating. And so I feel you didn't chase this person. There's a sense of, I feel like this person normally gets people that are needy. And that's because they play games, they hold back, that's the thing. They did all that to you too. You didn't care, or you came across as if you didn't care. That's number one. Number two, they still have an emotional connection. Why? Because they didn't see a reaction from you when you backed up, when they backed up. You didn't say, "What are you doing?" You ignored them. And so what they're seeing is there's still this weird energetic connection, which they've never experienced before. Now, when you're a player, like I said, you're not focused on any type of connection. And so I feel like it never happened before because it was never that type of connection. Not that they didn't have soulmates, but I feel like this is a different type of soulmate. I want to feel that way again, like a twin flame connection. It's different because it's not that you don't trigger this person. It's not that it's been easy with this person. It's the fact that they still want to be with you. And it's like where they're like, I can still see us together because, hey, you won't like what I say. And you're going to go your way. You're going to let me process and sit with my reaction where they actually feel bad. I don't think that they normally feel bad. So there's a lot of realization there. I will wait for a sign from you. So they're still cowardly. Um, and that they would only be waiting for a sign from you because they didn't treat you right. Um, I mean, it doesn't take a psychic to figure that out. It's like, so why? We can say all of a sudden why, but well, this person, like, they acted very hot and cold with you, like, and that was because of them. Feel like if a person's a player or they're not looking for a serious relationship and they're talking to a lot of people, they're not, they're just not paying attention. And the thing is, this person didn't really want to be in that a serious relationship because they had a lot of unresolved issues from previous relationships that they never heal. And then with you, you held to a certain standard and they didn't fix it, and so what happened is over time, like this person is like sitting with himself, but they made the relationship so difficult that it didn't, like, acted like they wanted a relationship, but I feel like they gave a lot of mixed signals because they didn't really want a committed relationship. So like they knew that they wouldn't be able to be with you, or really you wouldn't give them the time if they didn't. So they came across almost like they really wanted like this type of relationship, but they weren't ready for this, is what I see. It's like they had a lot of fear and obligation and just guilt, like, which made this person like act the way that they did, and they just acted like they knew that they were not doing anything, and they kind of were like frozen, and so they didn't know what to do, so they just kind of like left, and hoping that you would chase them, so that they wouldn't really have to change, but they could actually just keep you in their life, and but you would never go for that. And so that's the thing. So this person, like, I feel like they walked away from you so you can walk away from them, because there's someone that, like, again, you can see they want to wait for a sign from you. They don't want to come back to you and say, I am sorry. Like, I got freaked out. They don't want to say that. And so, it's again the empathy, getting close to you. Again, was what was hard because there's a true connection here. But again, it's like having problems to believe and actually respond from a place of believing. But so it's almost like they froze, like I said. And that's what Spirit said. They froze and they froze. So they didn't know what to like, they didn't know how to like process it. Almost like the relationship took on an energy of its own for this person, something that they weren't prepared for because they had a lot of unhealed, wounds from previous relationships. So they were living like kind of like a player, not caring about anybody, not looking for a relationship, and then kind of getting like bamboozled, like this is what they feel like, because it's like have these feelings now, and I don't know what to do. Where, like I said, I feel like this person just, would it kept a lot of things out. Oh, the volume's going in and out. I don't know why. Well, anyway, so like the whole time, like you had to like read between the lines because they just wanted the relationship on their terms, and they weren't honest about it. And then, like I said, the relationship takes on an energy of its own because there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of like that. But then if you're gonna be like that with them, you wanted them to act a certain way, and that's where things got freaked out. This person got freaked out. So now it's like, I don't know what to do. But then let's ask, why don't they come back? Oh, maybe I did. I hope I didn't. Anyway, because I want to know why. It's like, and what are they going to do? Well, right now, like because at the time it was a lot of sexuality. It was a lot of that, like that this person was focused on. And so it just keeps saying the same thing, but they're in a place of healing. They want to, like, again, if they had their way, they would give this relationship a second chance, And so how they see it is like, as far as now, when we ask, like, what are they going to do? They're like, well, they have a 50-50 chance because they believe at one time that there was a really strong connection. So they really are going to sit there and wait. And why won't it, again, you're not answering the question. Why won't you come? And it's like, because they don't want it to end. They're afraid if they come to you and you like say that, you're going to be like, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. So they're going to wait for you to talk to them because of that. Because I said, well, why wouldn't they, come and like just apologize? And that's the reason why they don't want it to be to end. They don't want, they have the feeling like, hey, there's a 50-50 chance that things are gonna, that you're gonna end because you're healed already from them. Like you don't want to really be with them. And that, like, so I kind of feel like this person's been keeping tabs, or they are trying to keep tabs, and they can just tell that, you're moved on. And that could be from posts that you post on social media. It's maybe you have friends. People, if they want to know something, they find out, but it's almost like they can feel the energy has shifted. And so instead of them saying, well, let me come back because I have feelings, they're in a place of, I don't really want to know because of that. And it's like they just again are gonna sit there and wish. They're gonna wish that, you know, you come back, but I think it's going to be short lived. They're going to realize again that you're not going to be coming back, and then it's going to put them in a different energy. But as far as for today, they're not going to do anything. They're going to wait for a sign from you. But what they want a second chance because they weren't ready for the connection, is what they're going to say. They got freaked out. And that's why they reacted the way that they did, but I feel like they're leaving a lot of information out. Like, because we can say, okay, so what were you doing during that time? Because this is where they're trying to like blur the lines, where it's like they want to leave that out. And where Spirit's saying it's like that's the issue. It's like this person knows that they didn't treat you right. So they're just gonna say that part and hope that you're like, oh, so starry-eyed and like really have feelings for them, that you'll just be with them. And Spirit says, don't make it that easy for this person. And because there's a part of this person that likes to be in charge, and the truth of the matter is they couldn't deal with the criticism, like you having boundaries, you asking for certain things. They saw it as criticism. They're not good with dealing with situations. They tend to avoid situations, through the addictions. There is this, very strong connection. It's not like they don't have a connection, but they're not the real who they say they are. And that's, they create facades. They want things to look a certain way, but that doesn't mean that that is the way that they are. This person, again, comes from a place of lack. They don't really feel good about themselves. I feel like all you had to do was say anything to this person that was a little off. And because there's such a connection, a strong connection, it's like they knew that they would have to rise to your level, but their feelings of lack, and maybe that's also because, hey, there is like not really a lot of resources, that it's like they just feel like it doesn't, it doesn't make them feel good about themselves. So it says a lot about this person, not you, and makes them feel empty. Makes them feel empty. And if anything, they would also get jealous of you, where, hey, people that have very strong attraction, but then cannot really, like, this person is not emotionally intelligent, like have problems connecting in that way. Well, that you succeeding and having good things happen for you is a threat for this person, because they don't like who they are. So, understand it's not like they don't have feelings for you. Yeah, it's a past life connection, but they lost you in a past life. Remember that. Again, and they want to pretend that it was like, oh, I just got freaked out for how the deep feelings for you. But no, that was because they got triggered. They got triggered by you. And part of them wanted to knock you down. It's like, and that's the thing. And so now they're like paranoid, whether you're not, or not, that they purposely kept the relationship in a place of imbalance, and they still actually are by holding back because, again, of their pride. I mean, that's really what it is. This person like is does manipulate. It's not like they don't. They like because they're gonna strategize. They have unhealthy habits where they drink a little too much and or do drugs, so they tend to avoid the problems. And here it is, you're in a high vibration, you're going to hold to a certain level, and they know that you're worth it. It's not like they don't, but they think, well, maybe you don't know, because of what, maybe you put up with, or maybe because of what other people have put up with from them. And they're like, well, listen, it can go 50-50, like if this person likes to take gambles in the relationship, you know, and hope that, you're going to conform, and that's the where it becomes more of a competition. And it's really because of the fact that this person feels inadequate. But in order for them to feel adequate, you have to, again, take a step down. And we said, again, because there's money issues. This person's coming from a place of lack. So when a person doesn't feel good about themselves and they're coming from a place of lack, they have addictive behavior. Well, they're also going to be someone that's a risk taker. It's that adrenaline rush. It's like they don't have any control over, what they do. And it's because of they're in a low vibration. It's not that they don't see your worth. They saw your worth the whole time. It's like they wouldn't want to be with you. Trust me. It's their ego is like it wants to be with you, but they don't want to do what it would take to have to be with you. And that's the problem. And the reason why is because this person's used to being in a karmic contract, and that karmic contract is like one that binds you to like, how they feel about themselves. They feel inadequate about themselves. And so you would have to like be on that level. Now, growing up the way that you grew up, which we said in the beginning, I don't know if we looked at the wounds. I think that we did obviously look at the wounds, and they weren't, you know, ones that were empowering. We'll pull more again, but what we see with this person is, again, just a lot of addictive behavior. They're a risk taker. They're someone that drinks. They're someone that, runs around with people. We're not ready for a relationship like this. They're not. They're gonna go to the grave with like leaving a lot of information out, because if you really saw them, like you would be like, no, that's why they're waiting for a sign from you. I don't really know what you know. I don't know whether you know what I did during that time, because you said something and I got mad because of your criticism. So I checked out and, had a party with myself, did what I wanted to do. And now, I'm still thinking about you. And that normally doesn't happen. I'm shocked to shit that I'm even thinking about it. I don't normally think about people like this. It's again due to the fact that this person had a lot of unhealed uh, trauma. And hey, I hurt people, so they were justified for treating people like crap. It's like, and so now it's like that you've removed yourself, and that's why they're going to come back. And Spirit says they're going to come back emotional. It's again, that's why don't confuse overstimulation for love. You got that card. And it's like where it's because there's still an emotional connection, because they'll make you feel bad. It's not the case that this person doesn't have the epiphany, but have they did any work, on themselves? No. And that's the issue. It's like, and when a person apologizes and comes back, at least that they're taking responsibility. This person's trying to strategize on how they can like have you without like going back and addressing some of the shit that they did. And what you saw in like everything bad that you could do is what you did. So how can a person recover from that? It's like, but they're like, I have a 50-50 chance because for a long time you didn't know, and they don't really know what's going on with you. So that is all driving this person crazy because, like, hey, no one normally plays them like this, you know? It's usually the other way around. Now they're experiencing that turbulence with inside of them, because it's like they don't know, but they know that something, that you've changed, and that's why spirit says don't give up your freedom. Like this person, like it said, is it's not that they don't have feelings, but when a person doesn't hasn't done the healing, you're going to get the same thing that you always get, and that's the thing. It's like they'd have to work hard to be in your life. Now, does this person intend, what's their intention? Let's look at the hidden truth. What is their, like, is their intention? Like, I feel like this person feels like, I hope that you can forgive me one day. I don't react when people mention you. So again, they're still not on a vibration, because the person would be, that's healing and healthy, would be like, oh, how is that person? They would be open to it. you know I want you. So this person on like that way, it's like, I can't stop thinking about you. And that's a little bit of this obsessive addictive behavior that we saw that they have with, the sex and the and the drugs or drinking, whatever they do to check out. And then, now you're triggering their sense of abandonment, and they're like, you know that they can't stop thinking about you, because it's like you took your power back. I feel you even though we're apart. And that's like what I said, that ESP connection that's always been there with you and this person. And so that's the thing. That's what they're grateful for. That's again what they keep going back to, which is why they're like, I have a 50-50 chance. I still kind of feel like our connection. But they're afraid because there's part of them that's like, I don't know whether or not everything. I don't know whether you're going to tell me to go screw off. I don't know. And so they find it easier to sit there and again wait for you. And that doesn't mean that you're going to come back, but this is the reason why. And so, like, again, that this person can't stop. Now, to me, I think eventually they're going to, if you don't come to them, they're not going to be able to stay in that energy for long periods of time, because again, they're becoming obsessive. They're becoming, it's bothering them. They can't get you off their mind. So it's going to become more uncomfortable for them to not say anything than to say something. It's not happening right now. They're holding themselves back, you know. And because it didn't come out in this reading, it's probably not going to be today or tomorrow. But let's check back in a month, and I can guarantee this person, if you guys have not talked, they're gonna find a way to like get back, to try to figure out, do you have feelings for me? Do you not have feelings for me? But, like I said, they don't, because they're afraid of the rejection. Because they know that there's a 50% chance that you're going to be like, I know everything and I don't want to talk to you ever again, and they wouldn't be able to handle it. So it's like almost like if you come to them, they can leave out part of their story, and hopefully you won't ask, and then they can see whether or not you really have like feelings for them. And otherwise it's like this person's strategizing because they care more about what it looks like and the ego than the relationship. And that's why I said they're not healed, because that's the thing. Now, that doesn't mean that, again, spirit's not going to humble them. This is a past life connection. So there is that passion. This person wants you. It's not like they don't. Their ego is in the way. And so understand, the universe will, as long as you hold back from this person will, like I said, eventually cave. They're just not doing it right now. Now that, like I said, you don't need to be with this person, but what you do need to know is why you attracted this person into your life. What is the whole spiritual significance of the relationship, aside from to drive you crazy? Because you'd be like, well, the person didn't like me and they were horrible to me. Now all of a sudden they want me to like just be able to forgive them and, you know, and come back. What's the whole point? That's the whole thing. But when you know that when it's a crazy relationship like this one, that there's a spiritual significance to it, especially when a person that normally doesn't have feelings and can control their feelings has major feelings for you. All right, so that goes there. I want to pull from this, and then we're also the transmutation cards, which is turning that pain into power. Like, what are we supposed to do with the energy, whether you choose to be with this person or not? What needs to be addressed? Why did you attract this person into your life? All right, so Spirit says self-love, self-sabotaging, abuse, disassociation, and cleansing, and magic fell out. So we have to say, obviously, like when you grow up in an environment where there's abuse, whether it's psychological or emotional abuse, the mind doesn't know the difference. Especially the child self. There's going to be detachment. There's going to be disassociation because that's the way the mind protects. It says you don't need to remember everything. However, because of the treatment that was so bad, there was a sense of, you kind of being taught not to love yourself because you were watching people that did not love themselves and they treated you like they didn't care. And so you were not, you like, again, we're not taught to love yourself. And when we don't love ourselves, what comes from that is self-sabotaging behavior. Because what happens is that we were programmed in an environment to make us feel like we are not deserving. Now, whether our parents have that or whether our, whatever it is, usually it's our parents. We grow up in an environment and they can make us feel that way because that's how the abuse is, passed down. And it's through the words that they use and it's the treatment. And so self-sabotaging behaviorisms comes from that, believing that you're not loved, that you're not worthy, you're not good enough. So ironically, this same types of energies come to us where now we're attracting people that tend to believe that they're better than us. They don't treat us nicely. They don't respect us. And we say, I don't know why that happens. And Spirit says, because you never healed it. And understand you have magic inside of you. And understand the magic is when you were brought up in an environment that taught you not to trust. You were taught from day one to not trust. To live in survival is to live out of alignment with God's laws, with the laws of nature. So that's inherited. And so Spirit says when that happens, God says, I'm still inside of you. But that trauma will continue to manifest. So you have to heal yourself, of it. And so when you heal yourself, what happens is you get more spiritual gifts. And it's because you're now able to like see things from like all different perceptions. Like when we need the healing, we tend to be stuck in a perception of the experience, and the experience was traumatized. I was young. I couldn't do anything. I was scared. Where now you can look and say, I got strength from it. I'm more psychic because of it. I discernment, like I can read things. I avoid problems. Like you can see the gifts, and that's the magic of you. And so I feel like you're going through a time now, right now, that it's cleansing. Like you always had this empathic energy to do that. But when you continue to live in a certain environment that, teaches you that you're unworthy, um, and that's what's going to happen if you grew up in this way until you learn the spiritual lesson. And that's a lot of times by setting boundaries and by treating yourself a lot better. You were taught not to love yourself. So that means constantly putting other people first, not not really paying attention to how people are treating you, but you're always paying attention to how you're treating other people, giving them like white glove treatment where you're like not even getting like janitor treatment. Nothing wrong with the janitor, but you understand what I'm saying. Like you're not being treated with the respect and with the love that you give out. And that means that you're not around the right people. And that's understand sometimes we attract people and then we teach them also how to treat us by how we're treating ourselves. So I feel like you attracted someone that didn't know how to treat you because you did not show that person how to treat you either. You were more concerned with being nice and being accommodating. And oh, I just enjoy talking to you. So like I'm available like when, but understand every time you talk to this person, you were growing an emotional connection to them that you actually felt that over a certain amount of time that there would be some sort of loyalty. And that's where you went wrong because this person was talking to a lot of other people at the time. It's like, and that's the thing. And that's why they're upset because they're like, now you see it. And it's like anywhere you're I thought we had something special where, they're going to say it is special, but you're going to be like, it's not special now that you did all that. So there's like this energy there, like I said, that still needs to be alchemized because, you were confronted with a test. Were you going to self-sabotage yourself? Are you going to self-sabotage yourself because the person's going to come in and they're going to be so emotional that they overstimulate you and you just say, okay, okay. Because that's not love. That's not going to work out, Spirit says. You already know that. It's again, you already are intuitive enough. And the lesson is self-love. You love yourself to pick you first because this person you already know is fragmented. So they would be abusive and abusive by not emotionally being able to show up for you and by doing the same things. And so, you have to integrate the disassociation. There's detachment there. There's fragmentation there, Spirit says. And the only way that happens is by letting go of who you were and realize who you actually are by releasing the past. And the only way that happens, Spirit says, is to, you know, to love, like you got love yourself and like release the limiting belief that no longer serve you. And that happens by being around different people. So again, that's finding new people and your tribe, Spirit says, and being on your path, even though it's not the one that's like mostly traveled, it's that you're finding yourself and the path unfolds while you're on it and you're becoming yourself. That's how you let go of the past and you step into your future and you have the love and the support around you with the people that you meet along the way. Spirit's saying it's like, and yes, you have to face your fears because what you see is it's an illusion that that it's just this person was part of your journey. Yes, they have good and bad, and Spirit says, and it's all to shape your soul's evolution so that you learn and so that you grow. Spirit saying, and that now what you do is use your passions to fight for what you believe in, for what you love, and that means for what you're deserving of. It's not that you were not going to date or meet people. It's not this person is not on a high enough vibration. You can take them back, but it'll be self-sabotaging to you because it's not going to be, they haven't done the work. They're going to wait for you. Eventually, That's not going to happen. You're not going to go. And so what's going to happen is they can't hold back any longer and they're too obsessive. And so, like Spirit's saying, so you better be prepared. And that's, you use your passion to stand your ground. Your choice of focus is your greatest tool to deal with a person that you don't like want to really be with in that way, but they still have an emotional connection. Otherwise you can't, if you're going to focus on them, it's like you're going to do what they want, and is what Spirit says. Don't do what they want, do what you want to do. You don't want to like be doing that. Thank you, Julie. And so we end off with one more message, and that is manifestation of light. See the beauty in yourself. You grow and you develop your inner self in harmony with the light and the beauty. You free yourself from negativity. Your heart transforms, your intellect shines, and your inner light grows. So Spirit says that you are like, there's no separation between you and your creator. There is, like, that's for everybody. This man's made up of half dust, half deity. That deity part of self is of light. But when we live in very imbalanced environments or date people that are imbalanced, well, that's where we have the wounds, and that's where, but we can't go back in time to, we get rid of that experience, but you can alchemize it, you can transmute it, and that's all by like ascending, and that means walking into a new life, for you, is what Spirit says. One that where you're true to yourself, where you love yourself. It's like you're gonna attract someone better. Why? Because we showed that you created the support for yourself by new friends, new tribe, new experience, standing alone, being in faith. Whenever you choose to say no, and do what's right for you, you get someone better. But Spirit says this isn't just about attracting someone better, it's about teaching someone the way you want to be treated. And so, understand those type of people, they seek out people that are good people. They say, oh, you're a good person. I'm gonna, try to see, how much I can be with this person, like whether they're intentionally saying to see how much I can get, or whether or not they're like, well, again, relationships, for some people, they actually believe, well, when I'm dating you, you need to share everything that's yours with me, which is very codependent. So a lot of times people rush into the relationship, you know, and that's the thing. This person would have loved for you to rush into a relationship, and that's what they were hoping for by just telling you parts of the story, by shading things a different way. The whole time they're trying to make you lower your standards. And the fact that you didn't, well, guess what? This person normally doesn't have respect for anyone. They have respect for you, and that's the irony. They don't have respect for people that they can get over on, where it's like, you deliberately try and get over on them. So why would you, people don't, not everybody goes into relationships thinking who's going to get over on me. Thing is that you could tell. And, like I said, this person is devastated. They just know that they can't really come back and fix this. They ruined it. And so I feel like they're taking the coward's way out, which is, I'm going to wait for a sign from you. I would show them a life that was so great without them in it so fast, because this was a divine relationship that they actually screwed up. They had the opportunity to step it up. They chose not to. They choose not to. They may say that they have feelings, but they're not willing to release control. And you saw what type of relationships that they have. It just to choose to stay in a lower vibration. They would love to be able to live their life and have you too. But their life, they're not kind to themselves. So they're not, then they don't love themselves. So they wouldn't be able to love you. It's like an addiction, like I said, until they can get what they want. That's why I said that they are not going to be able to hold back eventually, because it's like you took your power back. Oh my God, I really thought. It's like adios. That's what you got to say. That to be true to you is the best thing that you can do, because that person they'll definitely want to be like, again, that telepathic bond. They were going to want to ride that wagon all the way, be like, oh, spiritual connection. I never felt this way. Again, hoping that you are going to fall for that. Yeah, the spiritual connection and this, not, it's the way that a person treats you. Listen, you lost me in a past life, and guess what? I'll meet you in the next life. When you can, like, figure it out. It's like you didn't figure it out in this life. That's your problem. Because otherwise, you're taking less. And that's the whole thing. This person's never come in proper. And they still don't really want to come in proper. Like you said, they have to be really uncomfortable to want to do that. Otherwise, it's not. It's a divine relationship that this person could have stepped it up, and they know it. And that's why they're not happy. That's why they're upset, because they're like, oh, I fucked it up. Yeah, but fix it. It's like, no, no, I can't fix it because, again, because of their insecurity. But understand, it triggers you to make you feel insecure. And that's where your healing resides. And that's why Spirit said, you need to do that for you so that you get fulfilled, because parasites go to everybody. The difference is that you're able to recognize one when one comes into your life, and it's by how much they're contributing, how they're making you feel, like over time, how they're making you feel responsible for certain things that again, you're not responsible for, but they need to step it up, and they don't really want to step it up. So they deflect a lot. And so instead of entertaining it, if like stepping into a whole other life, that shuts them up. Like I said, this person's uncomfortable. It's like, and they're going to get a lot more uncomfortable if you, again, really take that advice, because then there's a sense of, oh, I don't know who you're meeting. I don't know what you're doing. Then they really freak out. And that's the thing. You were too predictable, too nice, and you showed them that side because, hey, you wanted to make them feel comfortable. You made them feel too comfortable, and that's the moral to the story. You don't know who's coming into your life. If someone really likes you, they're not going to mind putting in the footwork to win you over if you don't make it that easy for them. It's like, don't consider everyone else's feeling. Yeah, I got to consider your feelings first, because God says, me first. I'm a jealous God, and that's through you first, because I'm inside of you. So if you're saying, oh, it's okay, and then if someone screws you over, well, they're screwing me over too. So the answer is no. It's like, if the plane goes down, you put the oxygen on yourself first, and then you can help everybody else. You can't help people if you're like helping them and more considerate over other people. But you were brought up in an environment that taught you that love was conditional, that you had to, where Spirit says, so what helped you survive is going to not help you thrive. And again, so you have to teach people how you want to be treated by how you're treating yourself, not by how nice you are, but again, by how you carry yourself, by whether you're consistent, whether you're a person of your word, whether that, like, for those things, not for by being so accommodating, being so nice, because then you're just boring, where like so reliable, where Spirit says you don't need to be. It's like, don't be so predictable. It's like, people respect it more. And that was just because, like I said, of the abuse that you endured, that you're like, well, I'm oversensitive to other people's needs. Yes, and that's why that person knows that. And the last resort that they're going to pull out of their magic hat is to come back and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. And Spirit says, don't let them overstimulate you. It's again, I'm going to leave that there. Let me know how you resonated. Thanks for sharing your energy with me. Exactly. It was a divine relationship. He blew it twice, tried to give him a second chance. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like when if they're not ready, it's like you can't make things too easy. Remember, they have a whole closed heart chakra, so they'll be like, "I want it," but then like you give it to them, then they're like, "I don't want it." It's like you have to make them open their heart, and the only way a person opens their heart is to give. So it's not a bad thing. It's like when a person really, really has feelings, they're gonna, they're gonna they're gonna be gentle, they're gonna be kind, but the person needs to also put in the effort. And that's the thing. A lot of times people come in, which I like to call it handicap. They come in handicap, being like, "Oh, my past relationship, I'm so wounded," and they put all this weird criteria because of a previous relationship. That's not your problem. They come in offering less because of my work or because of this or because of that, because that you don't want to put effort in, but then don't expect this type of level of relationship where you want me to sleep with you, you want me to like be around when you want me to be around. It's like, no, it's like you have to unfortunately use discernment today because there's a lot of dishonest people. And that thing is, this is how you weed them out. Otherwise, you'll continue to relive the same karmic wound because you're just too nice, And then people say, well, those people go to everybody. So, it's not that they don't see your worth, but they're like, well, maybe you don't see it. And that's the thing. You have to show people that you do. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.